Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 11 of the Myriacast. I am excited. Obviously, it's a little unfortunate today. I can't be joined by Spoon. And once production figures out what they're supposed to be doing, I'll tell you who I'm joined by today. So today I'm joined by two of my friends from the Overwatch community, also from Rainbow Six Siege. To my right is Vis, and then under me is Hektik. Hektik doesn't have a webcam,
I do
but
not.
but we've put his face up there, and he looks really good, in my opinion. So we're going to be talking about Overwatch, Rainbow Six, also talking about being on a team. These two were on an Overwatch team and also on a Rainbow Six team now. I've been their manager in the past for about a month, but I've been in communication with these guys for a couple of years now, and they're going to be able to tell us a lot of great information, and I think we have a lot of pretty solid stories about how the Overwatch competitive community ran for at least early on, and then how they're transitioning to Rainbow Six. So let me get the intro out of the way really fast because I want to really get and start talking to these two. Myriathon is a biannual charity marathon. It runs, and it's going to be running this summer, starting actually in a couple of weeks. We're slated to start June 8th. You should stop by the Myriathon Twitter to get more information on that. If you're interested in these podcasts, you can follow me, Automaton89 on Twitter. I post all the updates for that. And feel free to join the Myriathon Discord. If you're curious about my Discord for any of those updates as well, you can message me on like Twitch in the Twitch chat, and I'll send it over at some point. So, also, I would consider and be interested in having you guys look into subscribing to the YouTube channel. And when these VODs go up, please like and if you like them or don't like them, comment. We'd be very interested in not just what you guys think, but Spoon and I have been looking for some feedback on these episodes, so we'd be more than happy to hear what you guys have to say. Anything is good. We've gotten feedback before from a couple different people, and we really try and adapt and make sure we improve things. So we'd appreciate that. That's the intro for this one. Nothing too in depth or sell out, I would say. Let's just get into it. So, like I said, VIS and Hektik, these two actually. I don't know the full details of the origin story, to be honest with
The,
you.
the
I've
origin
heard.
story when we first started playing together.
Yeah, I know some details. You guys had a couple of different like names of
Oh
the
boy,
pre-barbaric days.
It's a
Which
classic.
yeah, which
all the
one of you
names.
guys want to tackle that?
Take it
Um,
away, Chief. You can
sure.
do it.
So I'll start at my very beginning. So I started playing Overwatch, and then I met Dog on some random team, and me and him were playing for a little bit, and then we decided to join the Overwatch University League, and that's where they were doing the you send in your SR, you send in
Mm,
who you want to play with, and then they put you into different teams, and then you play within your own leagues of SR.
I remember this actually. I remember
Yep,
hearing about this.
yep. So I joined that with Dog, and then we were put on a team with Vis, um, Kalax. Who else was on it?
Scorpio was Scorpio on this one?
Rainbow Kitty and Vosh were the
Oh,
other
not
Rainbow
two.
Kitty and
Scorpio.
Vosh.
Scorpio not yet. Okay.
No, Scorpion wasn't on this one yet.
Scorpion's in, yeah.
No.
Okay.
So yeah, that's well. The funny thing is, we started playing on this team, and like nobody talked to each other except for Vis, me, and Dog. We all
Mm-hmm.
talked to each other a little bit. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember we before we even had any of our first games, we were playing like some regular ranked or something like that. And we're just playing with Vis, trying to get to know him because me and Dog already knew each other pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And after this is going on for like I don't know 1 or 2 days, Vis sends me a message saying, "Hey, if this doesn't work out, I'd really like to keep playing with you guys. Is that okay?"
Oh,
Like,
that's really nice, Vis. That's really nice. I
I
like that.
I figured out early on, as the story goes on, you'll start to understand that the
right.
other people on the team were a bit out there, to say the
Yeah.
Okay.
least.
So yeah, we have some of our first couple games, and they go pretty poorly.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to play support besides me because I just want to play Ana. Um, And we have
Okay.
one guy who, I don't know if I should say names or anything, was absolutely awful. Probably the most toxic person I've ever met.
Let's not name drop that one.
Yep.
Let's not name drop that one.
So yeah, he was the most toxic person we've ever met. So yeah, that was pretty horrible. But we had some fun. It was fun doing the like the games, right? It was fun playing against other teams, setting that whole system. So I talked to Vis, Dog, and Kalax, and I said, "Hey, this is a lot of fun, but let's make our own team for this." So we went and we made our own team, and we brought in. This is where we brought in Scorpion because Vis had been subbing for his team.
Yeah.
And then we had tryouts for Jack. And then Jack was the best one out of the tryouts, so he joined our team. And that was the first rendition of what became Barbaric Black, but started off as not Hektik.
Right. Because
I want to name it after myself.
No comment on that, by the way.
He tends to get a little power hungry.
Yeah.
I do, yeah.
We'll talk about how I can't really comment on that or say anything because that would be hypocrisy. But yeah, I recall you guys because I remember I was like, okay, well, what happened to where did Scorpion come in on this? Okay, so now that makes sense. It's all coming together finally for me.
I think our team was what, Google us, right?
It was Google us.
Yeah.
So just to get things cleared up, we've heard Hektik, you were support, right? So you played Ana. I mean, I knew that.
Yeah, everybody knows that.
This what was your role in all this for the game and maybe past that?
So I flexed around a lot. I played both off tank and DPS, but I spent most of my time on, at least in the early days, I spent most of my time on off tank.
Okay. And which heroes specifically were you looking at?
I played a lot of Roadhog and Zarya, and whenever I did DPS, I did Genji and Pharah. That was my core 4.
Okay. So
of course, I became a Doomfist main later in life, but we'll get to that.
And yeah, tough times for the team. Tough times. So, let's see. So let's transition a bit. So you guys, now you're Barbaric Black. Okay.
Well, there's actually a little bit of a story behind the Barbaric.
Okay,
there's more of that. So we formed our team, and we formed our team to compete in the Athena Cup.
Yes.
Which was a much bigger tournament than Overwatch University League, and also combined like higher SRs. So we were playing against teams that were way better than us.
It was, just for context, the Athena Cup was like, right now, just again for context, I think it's really important to say this. This was at a time where Overwatch tournaments, and there weren't really like major leagues, so to speak, for everything like tier 3 or under. So it was all basically the Wild West. So Athena Cup was like one of the big ones at the time.
Yep. So I told my team we were signing up for this. I really wanted to compete in it, and I knew that we were not going to do well in it, like at all, because we were a new team. We really didn't have a lot going for us. So we entered Athena Cup, and we did awful. We got beat up all the time. Every team beat us, but we stayed with it, and we stayed pretty positive. And we had a game against, what were they called at the time? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Well, they were just called Barbaric Esports.
Yeah, they were Barbaric Esports. Yeah.
Yeah, so we had a game against Barbaric Esports, and it was kind of funny because before our game with them, I don't know if it was the same.
It was casual.
I don't know if was it the same day or was it earlier?
It was the same day. They were warming up.
We were warming up in casual, and they were warming up in casual, and we met up in one game, in a casual game together. So we like sent them a message. We're like, "Hey, you guys warming up for Athena Cup? Yeah, us too. Blah blah blah." So we were playing, having some fun with that, and then we get into our actual game. We actually play against each other. They beat us pretty bad, and then after that game, Glowbeck sent me a message saying, "Hey, I really like you guys. You guys seem like you got some potential. I want to bring you guys into our org." Yeah. So we sat down, we had a discussion with everybody, and we decided we wanted to join the org. So then we had a larger meeting. We got introduced to everybody, and that's where we signed on as Barbaric Black.
Yeah. So I actually want to talk a bit about this too, because I knew Globe before these guys. Globe had a teammate who participated in a LAN event that I ran in where I am in the Bay Area. He had a teammate participate in a LAN event, and then this teammate happened to participate in another online event, and that's where I met Globe. So I knew Globe before I knew these guys because I ran this like local event with some people. And that was like the first tournament I ran for Overwatch. So there's like these two paths happening, and you're going to see they're going to intersect here really soon.
Yeah, Overwatch competitive scene back then was kind of a small world. Everybody
Really?
was kind of there was a lot of teams that knew each other and scrimmed each other kind of on the regular.
Mm-hmm.
You saw a lot of recurring faces. But yeah, so we lost Athena Cup pretty bad, but we gained our organization with Barbaric Black, and then that's when Globe introduced us to you and
Yep.
to Warp Meta,
So yeah,
and
so,
that's where that started.
so that's where the intersection happens. Is Globe, because I was looking for I was desperate for people to join one of these leagues that I was running for an SR capped league, and it was like SR capped at like 4,000 or something. And by the way, that was like, this is still really rare to SR cap something on a legitimate side and put money in it. People, I can't tell you the number of people I've had message me be like, "Oh, I don't like your SR cap thing. What if people smurf?" Or, "Oh, well, wait a minute, bump it up so we can participate." There's a number of different annoyances I've had over the years with various different people who, like I said, we're not name dropping, but it was like, okay, there was a lot of balance that we had to figure out. So I was desperate for teams. I knew Globe. Globe was like, "Hey, you know what? Well, let me throw you a bone. I'm going to throw you a team in there." And I said, "Oh, awesome. Thank goodness." Because we only had like a couple teams in there, like 4 or 5 or something. It was like really rough for multiple different reasons, which I won't go into, obviously.
I think there was only 3 other teams besides us.
Yeah, it was a really small thing, which again, there's a perfectly reasonable reason for that. And I'm not going to go into detail on it because that's like a whole different story. But so that's where I met these guys actually. Yep. And then I don't want to I'm going to sort of start this and then I'll let you guys sort of finish it off with. So this league was running, and it was like the first iteration of this SR capped league. It was my Warp Meta open league. I forgot what I called it.
I think it was,
something like that. And these guys participated. So these guys basically were like the best team in that league for the most part, and I'll let them sort of explain the end of that. But I don't know. I wasn't really talking to you guys that much. I don't remember. And
not initially, no.
Not initially. I just knew you guys existed, and I remember we enjoyed your guys' games in particular. I remember the casters had some fun too. We had a whole small production thing going. So I'll let you and Vis talk about that, because that's you guys have talked to me before about this was a big deal, the outcome of this. So I'll let you guys handle that part of it.
Well, it was mainly. It was a big deal because, I mean, we had just come from Athena Cup where we were getting creamed all the time. Yeah. And then we go into this league and we're playing against teams that are at our level, and we're demolishing these teams.
Yeah.
Handedly. Yeah. No problems. And we were having so much fun. We were on stream, which was something we really didn't get in Athena Cup either. Yep. So after every game, we would get in the call and we'd go back and watch the stream, every single one. Mm-hmm. We just loved watching it. It was so much fun. And then we get to the finals. And I mean, we were pumped up. We were excited. I think what was a best of 5, I think, right?
Yes, it was. We made that best of 5.
Yeah, a best of 5. We were against the second best team in that league, and I remember we lost the first map.
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah,
and we were a little nervous, but I don't think we let it get to us too much, because then we came back and we won the next 2 pretty well, and then the third one, I think it was on Outback. And we started on defense first, and we let them get not even to the first checkpoint. So we knew we had it in the bag. And I remember when we were switching rounds, people were screaming in the microphone. Kalax, who was the quietest guy on our team, was yelling louder than everybody else. Vis was playing music into his microphone. And I'm like, guys, calm down. We haven't won yet, even though we basically have won.
I mean, yeah. You just sort of know at a certain point.
Right. And then we pushed that. We pushed the payload. I think we took 1 fight. I think we just won 1 fight, and then we pushed it all the way, won the game, won the prize pool, and we were ecstatic. And that is probably, I mean, it'll probably be best moments of your life: seeing your child born, getting married, winning Warp Meta.
It's on there. You may laugh.
You may laugh.
That was a big deal.
That was so exciting for us to have come together after having lost so much, and to win this league as a team. It was exciting.
That's okay. Okay, so there's a list. There's a running list.
It's something to be proud of, dude.
It was a top moment. I had a lot of fun with it.
So the prize pool, I don't even remember the full amount. It was not small though. Our group, for better or worse, was probably one of the biggest prize pools out there. and
I think it was like $120.
I think it was like 150. It was like 150,
like
and that's like not nothing for people watching
No.
this. Like 150. No, that's a lot actually especially for a small league, an SR capped league like that. You'd routinely see like maybe $20. So these guys got it's so sorry. Just to put context, because Tricourage is asking a good question in the chat. It's about $150 total, and then you divide that up again amongst the players.
It was $200 total.
Oh, it was
Second place
$200.
got
Okay.
50. Second place got 50. We got 150 at first.
But what did you guys do? Because you guys did something specific. You didn't just divide it up amongst people. I remember you did something specific. You told me about it, right?
What
You
did
like
we do?
you saved
put
it. Didn't you save
We
it?
saved it.
I mean,
did.
we did save it, but
Yeah, you get.
I don't think we ever ended up
we
doing
never
anything.
used it.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
saved
we-
it because we expected to get coaching, or we expected to like use it to like buy into tournaments. So like we had it on the side, and I made sure everybody was okay with this beforehand.
Yeah.
I wanted to, so I was like, if you guys are okay, we'll put it aside and we'll use it for the team. So if it's
Okay.
coaching, if it's for buy-in, stuff like that.
Okay.
Like Bit said, we ended up never using it, so we ended up dividing it like way down the line. But
So, yeah, I'm gonna sort of like, I hope you don't mind, Hektik. I'm gonna interrupt so I can. Can you talk about the team a bit more specifically? Like who was shot calling? How did the dynamic go with that barbaric black team that won that specific one? And we could talk about future ones later because that's sort of when I got involved to a certain extent.
Okay, well, since it's finally my opportunity, gotta.
Oh God,
Crack this
he
one
was
up.
talking about doing this for so he's like, I'm gonna crack a Dr. Pepper. Okay, there you
It's
go.
important.
You got
It's
it.
my call sign.
Okay.
But so this iteration of the team, tank line was Dog and myself.
Mhm.
DPS at the time was Kalax and Gorelia, I believe. I think we had Gorelia subbing in.
no, this first one was Scorpion.
Was he on DPS? Was I on DPS then? And was he on tank?
This was triple tank meta too.
Oh, that's right, triple tank.
That's
get
why
the
we
metas
won. It was
later,
triple
folks.
tank.
Triple tank
Metas
is
are
great,
so important,
but-
by the way, for these tournaments. They're so
So-
important. It's crazy.
Yeah, so we had Dog on Rhine, Scorpion on Zarya Diva, myself on Roadhog,
Mhm.
Kalax on DPS, and then Jack and Hektik on support. And most of the time for calling, it wasn't as hard set as a lot of teams have it at the time. Like we were a lot more fluid.
Mhm.
Fluid maybe is not the right word to use. Maybe inexperienced is better.
Yep.
But most of the time, I would say I would be doing a lot of shot call. Well, I would target call occasionally
Okay.
until I died, and then I wouldn't say anything. And then normally Ed or not Guerrilla,
Sure.
Scorpion, pick up the slack.
Okay. Can I interrupt with? Let's assume that we've got a bunch of 5-year-olds. Target calling. What does that mean specifically?
So yeah, in Overwatch there's two forms of calling that
Okay.
every team needs to take care of. There's shot calling, which is managing ults, managing which side you're going to push in, what's your general plan of attack,
Mhm.
and then as soon as the fight starts, everybody wants to focus one target, and whoever is calling that target's name, that's your target caller.
Okay. Perfect.
Most of the time, that'll just end up being like if the enemy tank is out of position, and your target caller thinks they're an easy pick, they'll just call out Ryan. He'll go kill him.
Okay, got it. Okay. So, let's talk a bit about we're going to obviously we'll talk about more barbaric stuff, but you guys dealt with a couple different metas during your time, and I don't want to go too far into this rabbit hole, but how
Moth
much
meta.
yeah, how much do these metas actually impact your team environment specifically? Like I'm just going to name a few things so you guys have perspective, so you guys like know what you can focus on for this. How does your practices change? How do your scrims change knowing a patch is coming out and you've got PTR, something's on PTR, like with Moth, right? Moth meta. So how do you guys deal with things like that? Either one of you can take this one, and just talk about, okay, Moth meta, for example, is occurring. What do you guys do when you understand and see that this patch is coming in 2 weeks or something like that?
Well, I'll start it off and I'll let Vis finish it. but I'm going to start it off because we were pretty stubborn and we never adjusted the metas.
Mm-hmm.
That was mainly on me because I never wanted to play anything other than Ana. So when Moth meta started, we still played Ana because I only wanted to play Ana.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually we just realized that wouldn't work anymore, so I had to
Yeah.
switch. But
And what did you switch to, just for them to know?
did I start with Lucio or did I start with Mercy this? I don't remember.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure you ended up on Lucio. I think Jack was on
I've-
Mercy
I
pretty much
Okay.
the entire time.
also, sorry, one more thing. One of you guys, what's Moth meta? So that we have like terminology for these metas, or at least they know more about it than I do. I just know certain terms for it, like we know what Beyblade meta was, or we know what Moth meta. What's Moth meta for the 5-year-olds?
So Moth meta happened when Blizzard decided to buff Mercy to an incredible degree. And it became to the point where Mercy was so much better than every other support. So team comps are based entirely around Mercy and her new ability to res on cooldown rather than having it on her ultimate. So you'd see Mercy paired with a lot of snipers.
Yeah.
Who would just
And this was
get
her
free
ultimate
picks.
that allowed her to just fly through the air, hence the name Moth.
Yep. So it was. I just remember talking to a lot of different people. People were not fans of this. I don't know a lot of people who were fans of this, besides the Mercy people.
I can tell you that. I mean, you were asking how does the meta impact the team. I just quit playing Overwatch shortly after this meta took place.
Yeah.
And I have not looked back since. So yeah, one meta has ruined the game for me.
Yeah. So, okay, sorry. I just wanted to make sure that there was some context because I want to talk about more barbaric stuff. So, you guys now are past the Warp Meta League, and keep in mind all these different metas are happening, and I think it's important to see that context to know like teams can shift as a result of this. So like after that specific league, let's maybe fast forward to a time when like players started rotating. Like you guys were rotating out players. So I don't know which point in time you want to start with, but I do know like certain teams that occurred, and then I don't know when I came into the picture with that, but maybe talk about that a bit more too, from your guys' perspective, not mine. I'll give mine afterwards.
I'll let you go ahead since kind of once the meta shifted, I stopped caring as much.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll go through players up until the point until Hektik left. So our first drop, also just as a bit of background at the time, Overwatch teams have 6 players, and for most of the time we had a dedicated 7th man who was like our sub whenever we had somebody gone. His name was Corellia, great guy. And we had an issue where Kalax, one of our DPS at the time, ended up having to move for work and wasn't able to play Overwatch anymore. That happened a little bit after Open League Season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And after that happened, we brought in Corellia full-time as our DPS. Trying to think. After that, I believe Jack left. He went on, he got to the point where he was at a higher SR than a lot of the team at the time, and he felt that there was other opportunities.
Yeah.
So we came to a mutual understanding, and he
So
looked for different teams. I
just want to say, I think Jack left before I came on, by the way. Because I remember Jack being there when I was on. So I'm sorry. I just want to make sure I got the timeline straightened out.
I do want to say one thing, though, is this is something I'm still really proud of, is during the time when we were scrimming a lot of other teams, it was very common for teams to rotate players and to like some teams to drop players, have new players like all the time. But we had the same core of 6 players from January all the way till like August.
It was a long time.
It was a very long time, and this was very unheard of at the time. So I'm very proud of the fact that we were able to stick with the same roster for such a long time.
Right.
And I think it was one of the things that we were able to get Barbaric to be known as is a steady roster.
So Vis, I'm sorry, we bombarded you. Continue.
Okay. And I think I'll explain how we met you, Otto.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So our first interaction with you, if I remember correctly, was after we won the finals of Open League Season 1.
Mm-hmm.
You joined our Discord call. You explained like the prize money and all that.
Yeah, sure.
At the time, we thought you were a pretty amiable guy. We were a little concerned because there was a pause at some point during the
Oh, yeah.
Open League.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Can I
Almost
just
cost us the game.
pause really quickly? Can I pause really quickly?
No, you can't pause. Remember the pause?
Yeah.
You
So
need to.
so pausing in Overwatch competitive, it's really important because I was the person pausing, and so I had some other people doing it. Pausing in Overwatch was one of the worst things I'd ever had to deal with in my entire life in any sort of gaming setting. If you I figured out how it works, but at the time, I was a pleb when it came to these things. So I would just pause during fights, which is a big no-no, by the way. Pausing in the middle of a fight, I have never seen more teenage rage than pausing in the middle of an Overwatch fight. So please heed my words. Learn when to pause in custom games, especially with tournaments events, because yeah, as Vis said, this was a big deal. I didn't even realize it, to be honest with you, until these guys and other people would message me and like go crazy in the chats. It was bad. So sorry, Vis. Go ahead. Like it's really bad. I want to defend myself when appropriate.
You did kind of screw up. You almost cost us King's Row. But anyways, aside from that, we were pretty happy with how it went. At the time we kind of thought you were a cool guy. A little concerned, but otherwise it was all pretty well. I think I'm pretty sure at that point Hektik was DMing you about tournament. Maybe it was me. We were DMing you about tournament stuff, but nothing too serious.
Yeah, sure.
And then I think our next big interaction with you, which was certainly negative, was in Open League Season 2 when we played another team who, again, we have no way to confirm this. We thought somebody...
Okay. This is the not name dropping. We'll call it something else. We'll call it Chad. The Chad situation. I'm gonna call it Chad situation because we're not name dropping, guys.
It's the Big Brother, Otto. But
it's the Big Brother.
We weren't too happy of your ruling, which thinking back on it is completely legitimate because we had no way to know if he really was smurfing or not. But we ended up losing a match, and at the time we believed one of their players to be a smurf, and you made the call like that. There's no way to confirm that, so the results.
Well, I think it went even worse than it being a smurf because it was a different person that played. Because at one point it was somebody that wasn't very good, and then our game it was somebody that was very good.
Yeah. So this is from your admin's perspective, and keep in mind, like I said, I'm still pretty fresh at adminning, so the me admin now is a much different person. But back then, my approach was highly logical. So I would basically get like a message from these guys, for example, and it was, hey, we think this person's smurfing. Here's the problem, though. How do you as the administrator know? And it's difficult because I can't just contact Blizzard, and Blizzard then sends me this like report that says, oh yeah, this is a smurf. Here you go. Here's your detailed analytical report. That doesn't work. If I said that to Blizzard, they'd be like, who are you? So that's not how it works. It's not the best way to do it. And it's difficult as an administrator. Like, I can eyeball and see something, but my eyeballs are not proper evidence for certain things all the time. Like, I can see a difference, but that doesn't mean specifically that it is a smurf or a new person jumped on the keyboard. There's so many different explanations you could provide. Like, person had a bad game, or something happened. Maybe the cat went across the keyboard. I don't know. And that's the problem. So when these guys come to me and say, hey, we think this is a smurf, I take a look, but all I can really do is, what am I supposed to do? Ask the other team, hey, are you smurfing? It's hard. And I respect their frustration, but there's only so much power that I can really leverage to stop that. So it's like I said, I know these guys are upset, and I would be too if I was them. I'd be really mad if I could just like eyeball and say, hey, this is a smurf, and your administrator said, no, it's not, or I can't find sufficient evidence to say otherwise. So I just want to like I said, it's tough, and like this is the stuff these guys had to go through. That's why I'm explaining it. So anyway, sorry, continue. Again, my defense. That's my defense. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. You made the wrong call, but it's okay. But past that, trying to think. At some point, you gave us access to your server for some reason. I don't remember what it was. The Automaton server.
Oh, the personal one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot why.
I don't exactly remember why. But I know not too long after that you can talk about this yourself, Otto, if you'd like.
Sure.
You brought up the potential of wanting to be our manager for a month as an experiment
Sure.
to see how that would go.
Yeah. So, uh, I don't know how long I want to go into this, but at the time, like I said, I was running tournaments and such. And in my opinion, this is my opinion. You can disagree if you want. The best way to fully understand how to build and sufficiently facilitate a competitive environment, understand teams' feelings, understand how players interact, how they work and schedule, how do they scrim, is to do it yourself. There's no other way. Even if I talk to these guys, I wouldn't get sufficient experience and knowledge on what it's like to be a player, what it's like to be a manager, or what it's like to be, maybe even above that. The above that part never really happened, to be honest. But that's when I kind of rattled in my brain the idea of, well, who could I talk to get that experience? And I talked to Globe, I think, a little bit too about this. But you guys were the target. You guys were the team I had the best relationship with. I knew you guys quite well. I knew Globe quite well. And my hope was, okay, I hope these guys are agreeable to me coming in for a month, managing the team. It seemed like there was some kind of need for that to some degree. And like I said, I couldn't think of a better team because I didn't really have the best, proper relationships with anybody else because everybody turned over so much. So this is when I came into the picture for like a month a couple of years ago to help manage you guys. And frankly, I knew nothing. I didn't know anything about managing. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. So I did a lot of stuff that I thought would be beneficial that didn't necessarily work out the way I envisioned it. But at the same time, it was really good to be with these guys for the month. And it was like one of my best experiences with a team. And it sort of like ignited my passion and interest in like having like some people with a gaming team and being involved in that, like obviously is relevant to my present right now. But these guys agreed to it for better or worse. I can't say if it was the right decision for them. I was certainly happy. I was like, thank goodness somebody said yes. Now I can actually figure out how this works. Or for worse, of course.
I think looking back on it, I mean, maybe everything you tried to implement didn't work out, but I think overall it worked pretty well because I mean, just having somebody there that way that Vis and I didn't have to constantly be looking for scrims on our own time. We could focus more on the game.
Right.
I mean, just having that extra body to worry about all the extra stuff so we could just focus on the game was huge.
Yeah.
And I mean, having a manager is like a luxury. So having it for that month was great. I think we asked you to do it again longer, but you said no.
Yeah.
So
I would have loved to do it thinking back. I think that was like something I really wanted to keep doing. Obviously, I don't necessarily do it in the same capacity with you guys now, but it was weird. I was like, I feel like I'm a dad right now. It's a weird feeling. And so I was like, this is a good experience. Like all of these players are really fun and have great attitudes. So that was the best. That was the reason for it. And that team was, I believe it was you, Hektik, Vis, Dog, who by the way is a joy. I miss Dog. I don't talk to him enough. I miss him. Guerrilla, Jack.
I think Trounce, right?
Trounce came in later.
Trounce
Trounce came in later. Trounce was tryouts time. So we had tryouts. I helped you guys with tryouts. And this is where Trounce
that's
came
right.
into the picture.
Yeah, I remember
So you guys had lost a player. I don't remember who it was. I completely forgot.
I think it might have been Scorpion.
It might have been
I think it
Scorpion.
might have been when Scorpion dropped.
And you guys you guys asked me to help you a little bit with tryouts, specifically with like video recording and such. And I just, that was also really fun. It was really enlightening. I enjoyed that a lot. You guys brought in some really good players and some interesting personalities. One person actually helped me with like my streaming bit rate. Was he pleasant about it? No, but he helped me. And that's where we met Trounce. And by the way, Trounce, he's probably not here. Wonderful kid. He's like one of my favorite Overwatch people. Super weeb, but really great kid. So anyway, that's my thing on that. You guys can talk about me coming in and how that was. And you could be honest too. Yeah, I'm okay.
Like I said, I think it went pretty well. I enjoyed it.
I mean, yeah, it was a net positive. I think long term, like after you left the team for the month, like there wasn't a huge change of our protocols from what we were doing before.
Mm-hmm.
But for that month specifically, like it was definitely a net positive. It's something Hektik and I will talk about later. But it can be really difficult to manage a team of 5 or 6 people and get scrims, make sure everybody can show up on time, get subs. It can be a lot of work.
Yeah.
And that extra person is a godsend. It's great.
Yes.
Okay. Let's I mean, we've talked about this now. We're in the timeline. Trounce is in. I don't remember where this is in the timeline in the context of how this team sort of, because like eventually this team hit its conclusion in Overwatch, and I'm trying to remember. Now, I had asked before this, did you guys participate in Open Division? And the answer was yes. I think it was a yes. But Hektik, I think you participated, and then I think you quit like after the first season.
I was out after the first season.
You were out of the first season, yeah.
I think this is when Jack left was the start of this, because Jack, like we said, was at a higher SR and he wanted to elevate his play. And I think Jack left, and then we added in Yunalba.
Oh my goodness, Yunalba. Oh my goodness.
Yunalba was a great guy. I still think Yunalba was one of the favorite people I played with.
He's a good egg. I remember he's a good egg.
Yep. He was great, and he was a good support player too. So him coming in, I think that's when I had to shift over to Mercy.
Oof.
Because Jack was gone.
Yeah.
And that was awful. And I was hating every moment of my life playing Mercy.
Yeah.
And then that's why I left, because I just couldn't play the game anymore.
Okay.
I don't remember the details too much in between there, because I don't think we really had any big highlights. I don't think there was any other large tournaments that we did other than Open Division, but I don't think we did too well in that.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I think we did about average.
I think our final score was like 7-3, maybe.
7-3 is pretty good. 7 is pretty good.
So to be completely fair, Open Division at the time was not structured great, because it was everybody of varying ranks, and it was completely random who you got seeded against.
Yeah.
So your first couple weeks could, you just get screwed over by RNG.
So just to put some context quickly, because some of you may not know what Open Division is. Open Division was Blizzard's response to trying to help with Tier 3 to get people on their Path to Pro initiative. I put that in quotes because I have opinions on that I won't share right now, because that would require it to be less family friendly. Blizzard had their Open Division, and they had basically opened the floodgates and said, if you have a team and you're interested in playing in our Blizzard tournaments for Overwatch, come over here. We'll run this like X number of weeks. I think it was 10 weeks, because it was 10 matches, and we'll like match you up in our system. So you sign up here, and then we'll match you up. And these guys participated in it, and yeah, I think 7-3 is really good. That's a really good score. Record.
It was okay, because it's just like Vis said. Like, it depends how it starts, because you can either start off really bad. Like, there was a lot of teams that were better than us that scored less, and there was a lot of teams that were worse than us that scored better. Yeah. So it was all over the place.
Yeah, which I like don't know how they set up the system, but. I know like people want my spicy opinions, like Spoon and Try probably want it, but guys, it's better if I don't give the spicy opinion. Just know that Open Division, they had a lot of admins, they probably did the best they could, but I've heard stories from Trounce. Trounce has a story where his team should have been in playoffs, and the tiebreaker to get in playoffs was one of the worst explanations for a tiebreaker I've ever heard. It almost made me hit my head against the wall. So it's just like, but this is what happens. So you kind of have to go with it. So Open Division happened. Who replaced Hektik, by the way? I don't actually know.
Traffic Cone. At this time,
okay, Traffic Cone. Yeah.
Traffic Cone was great.
Barbaric Dusk, which is our sister team, which the original Barbaric team at the time was also going through a reformation. So we picked up Traffic Cone. Used to be a member.
Okay, and this was still Barbaric Black Days, although, yeah, like you said, there was like there was a reformation. They changed their branding to Magna Esports now.
Well, that's something I can
That's a
explain
ways
later,
off.
Yeah,
but
you can explain
that's
that.
also different.
Yeah, that's
I
different
can
for
touch
sure.
on that briefly.
Okay. And so how much further in the timeline do we have until like basically Barbaric is gone and you guys just sort of
Well,
like
personally,
think-
I would say it's gone after I left, but hey, I'll let Vis talk.
personally for me I think it's basically when Vis left. Is that was it.
I
Yeah.
would 100% agree it's when Vis left, but I'd also say a part of it was definitely going downhill once I was gone.
So after that, I believe we'd finished up Open Division Season 2, and I'm pretty sure we went 7-3 or 8-2. We had another season that was like okay, but
Yeah.
again, that was more on luck than entirely on our skill.
Mhm.
And then halfway into the next season, I ended up dipping out of the team because at the time I was concerned about working and getting some cash in preparation for college and all that.
Mhm.
So I stepped down from the team. Team picked up Jackal after that.
Oh yeah, Jackal. Yeah, I remember Jackal.
I think that was it too. That was the last iteration.
That was the last I
Yeah.
remember.
Yep.
And then I believe they played for the entirety of Open Division Season 3, and then that was it. Also during that time, I stayed on and helped schedule scrims every now and then when I had time, just to help ease it on Grellia.
Yeah. And then Hektik, why don't you talk about after that because it's somewhat relevant. Basically, there
Well,
was like a quick.
after I left, I wanted to play DPS.
Sure.
Like I took a couple weeks off, and then I kind of wanted to play a little bit, so I decided I was like, hey, I want to try DPS. So I joined some random team that was
Okay.
competing in Open Division, and it was really weird coming from a point where I was in charge of the team to I had to sit back and let the team run themselves and like have somebody else run it, and it gave me some perspective of how bad some teams can be run.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, this is the one that left a really bad taste in my mouth.
Sure.
I was at home at the time because it was in the summer,
Mhm.
and I had to help my dad with some work at a different location, and I had gotten we had for some reason the team had 7 players. There's like 3 DPS players, so they were rotating who was playing at the time.
Okay.
And so they messaged me. They're like, "You're not playing this week," and I was like, "Okay, that's fine." So I was helping my dad, and then I get a message saying, "We need you to play, otherwise we can't compete." And I was like, "What's going on?" I thought there was another person. They're like, "He didn't show up." So I was like, "Okay." I tell my dad, "I gotta go do this. I'll be back in like an hour."
Mm-hmm.
I run home, get on the computer, and I log in, and they're like, "Oh, we're just kidding. The guy's here now. We don't need you." And I was pretty upset. After that, I just ghosted the team and I quit playing with them because they obviously didn't need me anymore. So that was my experience with that. So then I quit playing. I quit playing Overwatch, but I then assisted with one of the guys from our sister team, Barbaric Dusk. He went off on his own and he started a team, but he didn't run he was running the team like as a manager, but he wasn't playing on the team. So he asked me to come in to like help him with the tryouts. So I was with him with the tryouts, and then I kind of stuck around as like kind of upper management. And then from there, that team started off as like Magna, and that's where then Globex came in, brought in the logo, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then that's how the whole Magna thing started. And Magna went pretty strong for a while. I think they had a couple really good teams. They competed at a high level, and it helped because they had a lot of people there willing to run management. They had some coaches that were like staffed coaches. They had a lot of people in management. They had at one point 3 teams that were competing, and then I don't.
Yeah, I
It just
remember.
kind of stopped. It stopped. I don't know. People, they either couldn't get enough people to keep teams going, or some of the managers weren't able to manage any longer. But I don't. I think Magna's no longer really a thing anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of saw that. I didn't. I hadn't really kept too much tabs on that. But yeah, it seemed like Magna they had like 3 teams. It was
They
pretty.
did, yeah.
It was pretty cool.
They were doing a really good job, and
And
I
you
was
were
pretty happy
helping
to
them,
be part of
right?
that.
You were helping them for sure.
A little bit.
Some-
I wasn't
some-
helping
some
as much
support.
as others, but
Yeah.
I was there supporting where I could.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So this is pretty much the end of the Overwatch arc. If this
Yep.
was like a show and this was a season, the Overwatch arc of this season is over. All of our main characters now are sort of on their separate ways. And frankly, all of us pretty much got out of Overwatch for the most
Do we
part.
want to talk
after this.
about Vis's tournament
Yeah,
experiences.
this tournament time. This tournaments.
All right.
This tournaments.
So, I helped out in Warp Meta after we competed in Open League Season 2. I think it was a couple months after the manager thing when he stepped in for us. I think
so,
you were
yes.
asking. I don't remember if you asked me directly or how it ended up happening, but I worked with you on running tournaments, getting stuff going. You know, mastermind behind the Champions Cup, Warp Meta's best tournament ever, in my humble opinion.
I'll comment on that later. By the way, I do want to comment on that.
If it's not a positive comment, my feelings are going to be hurt, Otto. That wouldn't be very nice.
I'll comment on it later. Keep going. I think.
And then, aside from that, I can't go too much into details on them. But I also did work with Elo Hell, which is Jane's tournament company.
So this, while you're drinking your Dr. Pepper, who is Jane for people who don't know?
Yeah. So Jane at the time was the head coach of the Dallas Fuel. He was an influential figure at the time, both on Twitch and in the coaching community.
Mm-hmm.
In Elo Hell, again, this is after the point where a lot of the grassroots tournaments were dying out because of the changes in Blizzard ruling. And Elo Hell was one of the only big competitors left, which is why I joined them.
So sorry, I'm gonna interject on the Blizzard thing because it was commented on before in the chat, and now that you've brought it up, Blizzard did this whole blog post. Oh gosh, I want to be spicy. They changed the rules on sponsorships and how much prize money you could do. They limited a bunch of sponsorship opportunities for people. And with Open Division being a thing, it was really difficult to try and facilitate a tournament with Blizzard basically like, you know, how do I put this without being a jerk? They basically like shoved you aside, like you were in the line for food, and they basically just like shoved you aside and forced you to sort of like back up and wait for them to deal with all their stuff before having the ability to promote your own stuff. I mean, it was very frustrating as the tournament person myself. It really got me upset. And when I emailed them, I distinctly remember them giving me one of the worst PR responses I've ever read in my life. And I feel embarrassed thinking about it now. It was sad. It was just sad to read because it just seemed like they were so out of touch and didn't care about our problems. So, that was frustrating. Any other stuff?
So that was pretty much all of my major things.
Okay.
At that point, anything else I did was more or less just like small favors for people I knew in the tournament scene.
Yeah.
Like, for example, I helped connect casters with other people I knew in the tournament scene and stuff like that.
So, I just forgot about something too. There was one other thing. Spoons. Thank the Lord. Spoons here to. I can't believe I didn't remember this. You couldn't stream during Overwatch League, which, by the way, they never. I don't think they would ever really enforce it. Like, give me a break. If you're gonna enforce some tournament stream with 20 people, you're an idiot. That's what I have to say to you. You're an idiot. Go find something better to do. We're just trying to host a tournament for people who are just trying to have some fun. Maybe try and do your path to pro. It's annoying. As for the VIS is Champions Cup idea, it was a good idea. I mean, like I am not necessarily the most creative person when it comes to these events. I'm a little bit better now about it, but at the time I was just like hungry for ideas. And VIS is a smart kid, so you know, having somebody smarter than you is beneficial. So he came up with this great idea. It was run extremely well considering he spearheaded most of the stuff. I was basically just there to help when I could and do my admin duties and deal with Overwatch kids, which, you know, they're I don't know what else to say. They're not my preferred player to deal with when I'm enforcing rules. So it was great to have VIS help me. I think VIS has a better understanding of administration now after being with, you know, some of Jane's stuff, just because there's definitely a bit more, I would say, organization. There was more people on staff for them. It was me and like one or two other people usually. So this is just, it is what it is. Like it's hard to find volunteer help Like it really is, especially when you're not a name in the community that people hear or read about and say, "Oh yeah, I remember that was like the best thing ever." You know, we had our problems, so uh, Tricourage is saying this just sounds like VIS is better than Auto at most things. I mean, for Overwatch, sure, I'd agree with that. Anything related to Overwatch for sure, or like administrating tournaments, this is probably better than more professional than I am. Now I'm not professional at all about this stuff. I'm just,
I mean,
It's
just
I'm
probably
so
look at
checked
him.
out. I'm so checked
Just look
out.
at him. He's got a collar. You're wearing
Look
a
at me.
t-shirt.
Look at me. Look at me. I'm wearing a Dragon Ball Z t-shirt. He's got a polo. He's far more professional than I am. So, um, this is like, this is the tough thing as like a tournament person. It's hard with Overwatch. So, that's all I'll say about that. So, just want to touch upon this basically. Like we all kind of went our separate ways. I moved more towards the Elder Scrolls Legends end, which by the way, I'm just going to say this. This is a generalization statement, but I think it's true. The Tesla community is by far superior as a community than the Overwatch community. I've only met one person I could find insufferable in that community. So I'm sorry, Overwatch folks, but that burn is just from my own experience. The Tesla community is just was wonderful, and we got so much support. In context, Overwatch is a far bigger game, but we could hardly get 40 viewers on a tournament stream. And if you got 40, that was lucky for some of our events. There are different events that got more. For Tesla, easily push 500. It was easy. So this is just like for me. That's the reason why I went away from Overwatch. Also, is just like
At the time, you were the biggest
yeah, we
Elder
were.
Scrolls stream, weren't you?
Yeah, we were. Yeah, at the time we were in our heyday for sure. So that was like there was this period in between Overwatch and now we're gonna sort of go into Rainbow Six a bit too. By the way, I also want to say like I said, I talked about Trounce earlier, who's in chat. Hey Trounce, and also like I said, Trounce is a really great person in the Overwatch community. I know I just made an Overwatch burn, but Trounce is a great person I still talk to, and I want to make sure he knows that he's great. He's one of my other kids, of course. So. Let's go more into this like transition to Rainbow Six. What made you guys want to do this? You've told me I think a bit, but I want everyone to hear it.
So we
Oh,
were
boy.
we were both kind of sitting around doing nothing, right? And I know Vis was running his tournaments, but I was starting to get the itch to be competitive again.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not want to play Overwatch. I absolutely despised Overwatch. And at this time, the new Call of Duty was coming out.
I remember.
And
this.
I remember Vis saying that he used to play Call of Duty back in the day. And I was just like, hey, do you want to relive our glory days and pick up the new Call of Duty and try to go competitive in it? So we kind of agreed on doing that, and that was the plan for a little bit. And then the beta came out, and my computer could not run it at all.
Yeah.
It did not work at all because I had a bad computer at the time. So we were like, okay, plan B, what's a different game? Oh, Rainbow Six could be fun. Let's try that out because I think it had a free weekend like around
Yep.
a little shortly after. So
That
we
sounds
tried out
about
Rainbow
right.
Six.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, we tried out Rainbow Six and we're like, this is actually kind of fun. We should maybe try pursuing this as their next competitive game.
Yeah.
So it was me, Vis, and Dog at the time, and that was the three of us were going into this uncharted waters of Rainbow Six. And I don't remember how you got involved with us in this.
I was involved with you, Hektik. So you were telling me about this COD stuff, and at the time, with the Tesla community in particular, I was putting together a team. So with the Tesla group, I had two people, a third prospective person to join my newly established team. I was going to establish this team. At the time, it was called just the Warp Meta Gaming Team, and it was it was a couple Tesla players. It was the second place player from their major tournament, and then it was another high quality player. And then you were telling me about the Call of Duty stuff. And full disclosure, if you had gone the Call of Duty route, I would have considered like being your sub. I was okay at Call of Duty on the console though. So you were telling me about the Call of Duty thing, and I said, you know what? Why don't we do a team together? Let's do a team together. I'm already putting one together, and so that's how we got talking about it.
And then it didn't work out, and I think that's for the better because Call of Duty on PC has absolutely no competitive scene.
COD's rough right now. COD's pretty rough.
Yeah, so it worked out in the end for us there. Siege is a much better game, much more fun game. But yeah, we went into Siege with the idea of setting up a team, and then Oh, let's see here. So we needed players, right? And we didn't want to hold tryouts because we really knew nothing about Siege. So we wanted to build a team from the ground up. And are we switching to Siege then? I don't want to. I don't want to make sure we have the right transition here.
No, this is siege time now.
Okay.
This is
time
siege
now?
time. Let's do it.
Right.
All
Let's
right.
go.
Yeah. So there was the three of us. It was Vis, Dog, and I. We're going into Siege. Auto's ready to back us up. We just need to get two more people. So I remember I was walking around college one day, and Mark and Evan were talking about playing Siege, and I was like, "Hey, you guys want to play some Siege with us? I have a team. You could try out for it." And they're like, "Sure." They had never played PC before. They had only been console players.
Mm-hmm.
So they came on. We played a couple games with them. They left the chat. I talked to Vis and Dog, and they're like, "Yeah, let's bring him on." I think it was Evan first, and then Mark slightly after. So I think I had a tryout for them, and I was like, "All right, we're playing a casual game. You guys need to get one kill. There's all the pressure on you. Get one kill, and you're on the team."
Okay.
So they got the one kill, and they were on the team.
Okay.
That's
There
how I
you
had my
go.
tryout for
There
them.
you go. Good tryout. Not a
I've
normal
learned that.
tryout, by the way, but good tryout.
No, not a normal. But we needed a team to get started, and like I said before, we wanted to build a team from the ground up and go into this game rather than trying to bring in people that already know what's going on when we don't know what's going on. We just thought it'd be easier that way.
Can I pause? We're not going backwards, obviously, but with Overwatch and Rainbow Six, you guys tried more people out for Rainbow Six. Obviously, we'll get there. But what do you look for in tryouts? What do you guys look for? I know I've told you what you should look for, but what are you guys particularly looking for? Are you just looking for straight up skill, or is there something else?
I'll start in Overwatch. So again, this varies a lot for teams. And like this is something that we were somewhat unique in.
Yep.
Our biggest factor for determining who we wanted to play with was whether or not they were fun to hang out with.
Yep.
Like we could scrim, and at the end of it, we'd all be happy, even if it didn't go great.
And I contribute that to why we were able to keep our teams for so long is because we looked more at the personality than at who the player was as like a skill based level.
Right.
I always had this philosophy that the people will get better as the team grows.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have somebody on a team for a long amount of time, you'll be able to develop skills, and the team will be able to develop how to play with each other much better than if you're just picking up the best player at the moment.
Yeah.
We touched on it a bit earlier, but back in the time when we were playing Overwatch, back in its early days, it was very common that you take a team and you look at them a month later, and 2 to 3 players are just gone.
Yeah.
With like that was extremely common.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That was that's really normal, just from my recollection too. Sorry. Anything else for the tryout side?
So, I mean that was basically our philosophy for the entirety of the OW times.
Yeah.
We started with personality. We tried to find the person that would gel the best with the team. We didn't like people that were toxic. We didn't like. Me and Vis have been doing this for so long that I think we were actually able to kind of like intuitively pick up on people and figure out how they would act in the future just based off of the short amount of time we had with them.
Sure.
Because I think we were able to actually call it pretty well with a couple people.
Oh,
You guys did a good job. Can I just comment? You guys pick good people. Like the people that I've seen you guys pick up, like you picked up Trounce, you picked up Yanalba. You picked like Traffic Cone. I don't talk to Traffic Cone too much, but like
Traffic Cone was a great guy.
Trounce was a diamond in the rough. I'm just gonna say it right now. He was good and had a good personality. Yanalba had a good personality, like a solid player. Traffic Cone. I mean, you guys know Traffic Cone pretty well, and the players that you have, like especially now for Rainbow Six, but like just identifying players, you guys do a good job. Like, I'm just gonna be honest. You guys do a really good job.
I'm very proud of that fact. But yeah, we would start with personality, and then it was just kind of who do we have at the moment, and we'd pick the best player from there. A lot of time it was like role dependent too, so it's like who's going to fit the best into the team itself.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, with Overwatch it was pretty easy. You just said, hey, we're looking for a support player. Rainbow Six is a little bit different, but we can get into that later.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, let's continue. We're in it now. Let's keep getting into Rainbow Six stuff. So what else about like maybe the team or just like identifying players or like where you guys are getting to or at especially early on, I think is really important. And then we can talk about where you guys are at now, obviously.
So something to touch up on.
Sure.
Back when we played Overwatch, we all started like high plat, low diamonds. Maybe it was plat when we were first all together.
Okay.
But as soon as we started playing Overwatch as a team, like we were all ready to scrim, and we spent our entire team's lifespan scrimming and competing in tournaments when possible.
Right.
And when we made the switch over to R6, we were not initially good enough to start doing that. We played R6 for like 10 months, 12 months before we had our first scrim because we just weren't good enough yet.
And we didn't know the game. We didn't understand how the game worked. We didn't
Right.
understand how roles were going to work. We were learning all of this as we were going.
Yeah.
And when we start kind of talking about meta and stuff, I'll describe how we really weren't like other teams either because we never played as a team before,
Right.
or played this game individually before.
Well, let's talk about the early days. Obviously, well, you just talked about it took like 10 months, but uh, is there anything within that 10 months also to highlight? I don't remember everything, but otherwise we could transition more to like the getting like you guys getting prepared for scrims, and then
So about halfway into our start, Dog left the team, and then we got Adam, who was also where I go to college with. So we got 4 people living in the same area, and then we got one guy way out in the middle of nowhere.
Excuse me, middle of nowhere. Oh my goodness.
But when we should we talk about how we named the team? I guess
we should talk about it. Okay, we're talking about it. So their team is called Full Auto. Okay, I made it a point to talk with these guys, particularly VIS and Hektik, about the team name. It was like the most important decision for me was to get them involved and say, I need you to come up with the name with me. I need you to like help identify how this looks and feels. And then whatever you guys tell me, I'll do it. I'll do whatever it takes to get it together and figure it out. We were like bouncing different ideas around.
Quite a few.
And then it just came to like, what if we called it something involving you, Auto? And I said, okay, well, what would we call it? And somehow we got on the name Full Auto.
Like a machine gun.
Like the machine gun. And so
credit to Mark.
Yeah,
no. Actually, Mark was the one who actually pushed for it to go. But it was me that brought up the idea. I'm taking credit.
Did you make the logo, though? The logo is what sold us. Dude.
No, yeah, logo, yes.
So
but give me credit.
It's cheesy to say it was a team effort. The logo, I had people making the logo. Obviously, I use like Fiverr. I always use Fiverr for that stuff. Sometimes it's hit or miss, but Fiverr, like this logo was pretty good for what we needed. It was good. I showed it to these guys. We ended up picking the warp meta colors that I had together because we had the things. And Tri says it's because of my massive ego. That's also correct.
I mean, I named my first team not Hektik, so
yeah. I mean, like we have big brains and we have a lot of pride here. It's
that's so really.
Yeah, there's a lot of pride in this discussion right now, but it's a name that suits us, and
I wanted a name that you could take serious, but also wasn't too serious on the point where everybody was cringing when they saw it.
Right.
It's good. One
like,
works for that.
Yeah, I used to like kind of feel weird about some of the Overwatch team names I'd hear. I don't want to say some of them, but there were some sexual ones that I was not comfortable with, and it's good that we picked a name that's like it's got some nice like connotations for shooters, but it's also like the logo looks good. You'll take it seriously, but at the same time, these guys aren't like grinding the same way like a professional team is. It's got some good mixtures, but unless you know who I am, it's a normal name. Really, it is. Once you know who I am, then you kind of go, oh, really? Okay. But and then you hang out with me, you go, oh, really? This guy? Yeah. So it's like, it gets progressively worse. So once you know me more. So so Dog leaves. Okay. You bring in Adam. Yes. And
before I'll go a little bit too there. So I mean,
Sure.
yeah, we were playing ranked a lot. We were grinding ranked because we were just trying to get better. We'd take some nights where we would go through a map and we'd come up with our own strategy for it. And this was based solely on what does everybody like to play? What do we feel comfortable playing? We didn't really look too much at like what the actual meta is, and I'm still not really sure what the actual meta is on some maps.
Mm-hmm.
So we just built our own strategies, but we would employ these in ranked, and we kind of adjusted them to ranked style.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we had a long run. I think both Vis and I hit the lowest rank you could possibly hit in the
Yeah.
game. So we both touched the back wall, and then it took a while, but we both kind of shot up, and now we're stuck, or I wouldn't say stuck, but we're kind of hovering around that high gold level. We both were able to get into plat, so I'm pretty proud of the fact that we touched the bottom and we made it up pretty high in the ladder.
Okay.
Also, bit of context for people who have played Overwatch but not R6. Ranks in R6 are essentially one rank up from their Overwatch equivalents. So high gold in R6 is more or less high plat in Overwatch. The ranks are a bit skewed.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think we had 2 boot camps as well. So we had one boot camp with Dog on the team where
Mhm.
we flew everybody in to where our area's at. We all stayed the night at Evan's house. We played Siege for a lot of it. That was a lot of fun. It was a good time. And then we had another one with Adam. And at the end of this boot camp was when I threw us into our first scrim.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the highlight of the night. And the scrim, trying to set up scrims for Siege, I was very spoiled with Overwatch. Like, Overwatch was very nice. It was easy to set up scrims. The people in Siege, I don't understand how they get scrims out. It's just so much more difficult, and I don't even know how to explain it.
Can you explain the main differences? So Overwatch, like, what's the simplest approach to set up a scrim in Overwatch, and what is it in Rainbow Six?
So the simplest approach for setting up a scrim in Overwatch was you'd put out, looking for a scrim, you put out your rank, and you put out your time frames.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be like looking for a scrim, 3,000, 8 to 10,
Sure.
stuff like that. That's how it was.
Easy.
Yeah, very easy. You look at it, you're like, okay, we're within this range. This is our time frame. Let's do it. And these were normally put out like sometimes a day in advance, so
Yes.
you had plenty of notice. It was easy to find subs as well. Siege is looking for scrim right now. That's it.
That's it.
That's it. I see a lot of looking for scrim right now. I see a lot of looking for scrim 2 maps, 8. Doesn't tell you
God.
ranked or anything like that.
You said 8? Does it
Yes.
say at least time zone? Like 8 Pacific? 8 Eastern?
Sometimes not.
Oh,
Sometimes
great.
not.
Okay, got it.
So it's awful because not only are we coming into this new, I don't know where we stand against other teams because nobody puts in what their rank is. They just sometimes teams will put tier 4. So those are the ones that I go for because I know we're not at a higher level.
Sorry. Tier 4.
Yes.
Okay.
So those are the scrims that I grab. I'll just look for one that says as much information as possible, and I'll shoot them a message. And I've sent messages to people. I sent one to this guy. He had put out a time frame. He put out a tier 4.
Yep.
I sent him a message, and I asked him, "Are you still looking for a scrim?" And he said, "I'll let you know if one comes up." And I was like, "You posted you were looking for a scrim." So dealing with Rainbow Six versus Overwatch is completely different.
So yeah, we keep saying scrim. I'm sorry. Like I said, if you have no idea what we're talking about, it's like a scrimmage. So the example would be you communicate with some other team or group, and you decide on a time. And let's say it's like 5 p.m. Pacific time, the same time as the Myriacast, by the way. You should be watching. Then you jump into a game together, like with Overwatch. There's like custom games in Rainbow Six. There is you sort of like communicate how the game is going to get set up, and then you play against each other for a set number of maps or length, and that's it. And then you say your goodbyes. Hopefully it's not toxic, though in Overwatch it typically was on like, I won't say typically, but there were times when it was annoying, and then you just like you do it that way. And so teams like in Overwatch did like 2-hour scrim blocks a lot. In Rainbow Six, it sounds like it's just a lot of like number of maps.
It's by maps.
It's by maps.
It's a terrible system.
So hard to deal with. But
Yeah.
so I was able to find one. I was kind of worried I wouldn't find one, and this was Vis's idea. I gotta give him credit for the idea of having a scrim at the end of the boot camp, kind of to celebrate.
Mm-hmm.
I'm full of them.
Yeah, so we had the scrim, and we did pretty well. We did a lot better than I expected. I might have had due to something where they had a player drop half the time, but I'm not going to put that too much. I'm just going to say we won the scrim. It was pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, you can, realistically speaking, you can only control what you can control. I don't think you should really necessarily be worrying too much about other people's issues when you're in that scrim. Just like your own performance is how I look at it. It's like, okay, that person disconnected once or twice, but at the same time, like, we performed well. If it's a good outcome, I think. Like,
And we definitely performed well. We executed where we needed to. We saw flaws in our attacks that we were
Sure.
able to adjust. So at the end of the day, the scrim worked pretty well. Everybody was really happy. The boot camp was a success. So
yeah,
it was a good time.
awesome. Okay, I'm trying to rattle my brain. So like, I think we've gone through the Rainbow Six stuff. Is there anything I'm missing with the Rainbow Six stuff? Like, what else do you guys want? Oh, okay, this.
One thing I want to comment on, and so again, we're not professionals in R6, so our opinion isn't the end all be all on this. But calling on R6 is significantly different from what it's like on Overwatch.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
At least at our level at the moment, most of the calls in game are just going to be contextual callouts. We're just passing along information where we see enemies, what they're doing at the time. There's like beforehand, before we go into a map, we'll lay out a general strat and what we're going to do. But when we're in game, there isn't always going to be one person saying to everybody do this, everybody do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's more or less everybody has a set path for what they're supposed to do, and they call out what they see when they're doing that objective.
Okay.
So one of the big differences between, I mean, there's a lot of differences, but like when it comes to calling, and that causes this big difference. So Overwatch, everybody plays as a team.
Yeah.
So everybody's together in one spot. You know kind of how you're moving as a group, so it's easy to communicate that.
Sure.
So that's why you call one person and you call your direction. Now, I'm not saying that like Overwatch is less complicated than Rainbow Six when target calling is like that, because there's still quite a bit that goes into that. But when it comes to Rainbow Six, there's a lot of other stuff that's going on in the map that you can't operate like at one point in time. Like
Sure.
your team's not operating as one ball moving around. You have like one fight at this side of the map, you have another fight on this floor of the map. So you have little duels going on. So you can't like call for the strats like that. But what we kind of do is we'll look at the situations and we'll adapt to them.
Okay.
So like I said, we have general game plans that we go into each map with, and then based on the situation we adapt them. So if they're bandit tricking, which is the term, I don't know if you want to describe it or not, but it's if they're electrifying the wall, we'll send somebody around to a location that can take care of that.
Okay.
If they're holding a certain angle in a certain spot that's not normally held, we'll send somebody to deal with that, or we'll adapt it accordingly. So that kind of gets communicated by me and VIS, how we're adjusting our attacks.
Mm-hmm.
And then comes the more individual calls. So like this was saying, a lot of positioning. So people calling out what the enemy team has, where they're located at.
Sure.
Watching cameras when they're dead, or watching cameras droning for people when they're alive. A lot of calling like that. So the whole team's feeding information to everybody, and everybody's reacting to that information.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, Rainbow Six felt like a really, from a tactics perspective, there was, like, I've heard their calls from Overwatch, because I would sit in on some of their scrims and such, and oh my god, he's cracking another open. There he is. And I would do VOD. Basically, I would record VODs for them, and then they do review based on that. So I would hear their calls. Rainbow Six is just like, I hear their calls, and it's just like, for me, frankly, when I'm listening to Overwatch, it's just a bunch of people screaming.
That's what it is.
For Rainbow Six, it's different. It feels different. I've sat in on some of theirs, not as much as Overwatch, but Overwatch was just a bunch of screaming. It was like listening to my dogs when they want food, as opposed to like with Rainbow Six, it's a bit more methodical with how they make their callouts, and they're talking to each other about their movement, I guess, patterns, and like everything you basically described. It's just like different listening to it, at least from my perspective, listening in as a third party with very little knowledge of both games.
One of the skills that I think... Oh, go ahead, Vis.
Okay, yeah. You're 100% right, Otto. In Overwatch, a lot of the time, especially in stuff like dive meta, where you would be super aggressive and focus one target, most of the time in team comps like that, whenever a fight's going on, everybody's just screaming names,
You're just
and you're just
screaming.
supposed to kill. There's 6 people screaming monkey, and you got to kill the monkey. That's how Overwatch works. Um, but yeah, since everybody's so spread out on R6, that's not really something that happens as much. So it's a
Sure.
big difference.
Yeah.
And one of the skills that you really have to kind of learn quickly, and I think is something that we're starting to adjust to now. I know we had some trouble with it before. Is there's a lot of information flowing from everybody that sometimes it can be overwhelming. So you really have to kind of learn how to listen to what people are saying, and then differentiate if it's impactful to you or not. So somebody could be calling that there's somebody halfway across the map doing this thing, while somebody else is calling for you on a staircase right next to you. So you have to learn to be able to tell which voice is saying what and where they are in relation to you.
Got it.
And that's something that at times we've kind of struggled with a little bit. I know people have said like, "Oh, we need to be quiet when this is happening," or "We can't be quiet because we got to call for each other." And I think now we're getting to the point where people are able to zone out other people's calls for the ones that they need to listen to.
Right.
It's become like really important skill for us.
Yeah. By the way, I feel really stupid. We probably should have done this earlier, like at the beginning. Rainbow Six is a FPS game with a team of 5 people against 5 other people. One's on attack, one group's on attack, one's on defense, and then it like that'll rotate during the match, I should say, the map and the match. The attacking team is attempting to defuse a bomb, is my understanding of it, and the defensive team is obviously preventing such action. But you're typically put into a location of a building, so completely out of order explanation. But if you have no idea where Rainbow Six is and they're just saying all this stuff, I feel like I would be really confused too. But I just wanted to make sure that like simple explanation was heard throughout all this. I feel really silly not having us describe it earlier, and it's like it feels a little bit like the idea of like that objective is like CS:GO kind of a little bit, but there's
In a way, yeah.
yeah, in a way it's a little bit similar. But I think it's so unique and cool. The spectator mode in Rainbow Six is one of the best I've ever seen. It's so cool.
Yes,
Getting
it
that-
is. It's very nice to watch the games.
Yeah, spectator and Rainbow Six, you could just get this top level view of the building and see it's just so great. It's so much better than Overwatch.
It's the only thing.
Just from comparison, it's like the best thing. By
Custom
comparison.
games in Siege are so difficult compared to Overwatch.
Yeah, that's what you guys have told me before, and I'm just. Well, it's just I remember us trying to do custom games and like the matches where I don't remember what happened, but we couldn't like do the lean. We couldn't lean or something in our Rainbow Six games when we would just have like fun games. So so yeah. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about with the Rainbow Six team or Rainbow Six in general? Otherwise, I want to have one of you guys check. I posted some questions in the Discord. Can you double check that and see if we missed anything? And if not, then I want to start kind of like closing things out a little bit. Maybe have some more fun questions for you guys to end this.
So I know I kind of want to talk real quick about the meta with
Okay,
R6.
perfect.
So, like I said kind of earlier, we don't really know what the meta is. It's kind of hard. It's not as easy as saying like, oh, it's Moth meta for Overwatch or it's triple tank for Overwatch. It's a kind of a key thing that everybody kind of goes through, because with Rainbow Six, there's so many operators and so many operators are actually viable. What we've kind of done is, like I said, we figure out who's comfortable playing what. So we have a dedicated hard breacher for opening up reinforced walls. We have a dedicated support player that goes with that person. So make sure the wall's either not electrified, keep them alive, stuff like that. We have a lot of everybody else kind of flexes around for different maps to do different things. We have people who watches the back for the team, so if somebody's sneaking around, they can catch them off guard.
Sure.
We have people for destruction, soft destruction, so we can open up a floor above and shoot down into the site. So we have roles in a sense for that. We also have on defense, we have dedicated roamers, we have dedicated anchors. So people who roam around, we have people who are dedicated to sit on site. We have people who will constantly watch cams on defense. And then we have people who flex in between, depending on the map.
Got it.
So some things are similar to what the meta might be. So like different sites, we have different setups for defense and for attack based off of what we've seen and what we've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
But as we're a new team that's coming into this, and none of us have had experience with another team before.
Mm-hmm.
What we kind of did was we kind of grew our team and experience like together.
Mm-hmm.
So we would go into custom maps and we just say, based on our operators that we want to run here, what's the best way to attack this site? And we would come up with the idea there, and we'd say, okay, I like this idea or I don't like this idea, and then we'd execute it. And after a couple times running it, we'd see, okay, this isn't working out so well. Let's change this around. Or this is working out really well. Let's just keep doing this.
Okay.
So that's kind of how our meta is working for Rainbow Six. And it's probably not the same as a lot of other teams, but I mean, we're doing what works for us.
Sure. Did you want to say something, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, important context for people who've never played R6. One of the main features of R6 is that every round in a game, the bomb site that you're attacking or defending changes, which means that each individual map has like its own mini metas for each different site, which is why it's so much harder to pin down like one general plan, since the map is so dynamic and where you're going each round.
So I wanted to ask this actually for both of you. What is your preferred role when you get into those games? Like Vis, what are you doing during the game? Hektik, what are you typically doing? I know you've talked about all this stuff, but like Vis, are you the one that roams around, or are you staying on site? What's for you guys?
On offense, on both offense and defense, I'm the flex player. I mess around with a lot of things, but on defense, where there's a lot more variation between Hektik and I mainly roam, and I also help call out stuff for other roamers when I'm dead, or help instruct them on how to support the rest of our team.
And with roaming, what is the why is that good in the context of the game? Like, why do you want somebody doing that besides everything you just described, obviously?
So yeah, a bit more background on R6. There's two primary roles when you're on the defense side. You have anchors who are sitting on site protecting the bombs so they don't get defused, and then you have roamers. And as roamers, it's your job to try to give info to the rest of your team about where the enemy's coming, what side they're approaching from, and if possible, get picks before they get to the site.
Got it.
Because in R6, it's not a great idea to stack all 5 people on site, because it's very easy to get flashed out or something like that.
Sure. Hektik.
You
now.
Well, I was going to say, just do you want to kind of say what you do on attack too, or I know it's a little bit more fluid.
So, yeah, like I think the best way to describe it is like I play supportive operators, like not always, but basically I'm the 5th player who pick whatever we need for a map. Like especially if we notice in the middle of a map that there's a specific strategy the enemy team is using, I'm normally the player who adapts and takes the 5th pick to counter that.
Okay.
So I play a wide range of operators.
Did you say dab, by the way? Like DAB?
Adapt.
Oh, dabbed. Oh, I thought you said dab. I was like, why are you dabbing? Why are you dabbing? Okay, sorry. Hektik. Before that, I'm sorry. Can one of you guys, what are the operators? Like, you don't have to talk about the names of the operators, but like give examples of operators, you know.
It's kind of like your loadout with your special ability that you get. So your operators are kind of what guns. So each operator has their own selection of guns and equipment. So you have to pick your operator. You have to be careful picking your operator because not all operators share the same guns. Not all operators have the same abilities. So for example, there's an operator on attack that has a sledgehammer for his special ability, and his secondary gadget is a frag grenade, and he has an assault rifle. There's another on defense. There's an operator that has a submachine gun. He has a C4 nitro, and he can put down a battery that electrifies a wall so it can't be blown open.
Sure.
So each operator has their own loadouts just based on guns. Some operators share guns with other operators. Some operators share secondary gadgets with others, but the primary gadget is unique to each operator.
Yeah. It feels a little bit like a MOBA character in a certain context. Yep. You know, they have like this unique ability and loadout. So, anyway, sorry about that, Hektik. So your role, and maybe talk about why your role matters in the context of things. I know it doesn't sound like that's. It sounds a little toxic when I say it that way, but just like describe why you do what you do when you're in the match.
All right, so I am on defense. I'm the dedicated anchor.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what site we're playing, I will always be the anchor. So there's some sites that VIS will be anchoring with me,
Mm-hmm.
but the other sites he'll be roaming. Every single site, I'm the anchor.
Okay.
So I will play a lot of operators that have utility that give them cameras, or ways of seeing outside the site, so that way I can help support the people who are off site.
Okay.
So, for example, I'll play Echo, who has little drone cameras that can go up into the ceiling. So I'll put those out in locations, and then I'll sit on site and I'll watch cameras and call out for my roamers.
Okay.
And then as the match goes on, and they start to pressure the site, then I'm the gun on the site, ready to shoot the people who enter into the site.
Okay.
So that's kind of my role on defense. On offense, I'm in a similar vein to this in that I flex around a lot with my operators, but I have a more focused selection of operators that either help to support us from being flanked on by roamers or to help clear out the site.
Okay.
So one of my highest picked operators is Nomad, who puts down air jabs, which are like little proximities that explode and knock down defenders when they get close. So as we're approaching a site, I will cut off all the avenues that can come up behind us with those,
Mm-hmm.
and then we listen for those so we're not caught off guard.
Okay.
When I'm not doing that, I'll be watching flanks while the rest of our team operates and tries to attack site. Sometimes I'll play an operator that does a better job of entering into site if we require it.
So air jabs, right? It's air jabs. Okay, I swore you said air dabs again. I'm too old. So can we? Sorry, we're gonna go back again because we need more. We need more detail.
Sure.
How long do these matches take? Like what about like game? So like there's you get on a map, and how many rounds typically are there? Let's take it in the context of a ranked match.
Ranked match is it's how do you describe it? It's a 1st to 5.
Okay.
In overtime. Otherwise, it's 1st to 4, win by 2.
Okay. Got it.
So if it's 3-3 and then somebody wins, you play until you get 5.
You play until you get 5. But if it's 3-2 and then
and the 3-person team wins to 4, it becomes 4-2. That team wins.
That's a game. Okay.
So that's the best way I can describe it.
Got it.
As far as timing, I think is it 3 minutes per round?
3 minutes a round.
Yes.
About 5 minutes with pick phase prep and loading times.
Okay. Yep. And so in total, what's your estimation? Like half an hour?
I think we average about half an hour a game.
That sounds about right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anywhere between 20 to 45 is the range.
Okay, got it. Great. Okay, so we talked about roles a bit. Like, okay, it's so how many? Just the anchor. Just to give, a little bit more. How many anchors are there typically again?
Around 2.
Around 2
most of the time. 2 is
around
a good
2,
number.
and then roamers.
But you normally you have 2 anchors. Ideally, you have 2 anchors, and then you have one person who's close to site, so they're not sitting on site, but they're like 1 room, 2 rooms away.
Okay, got it.
And then you have 2 roamers that are farther away. So that's like the normal setup.
That's the normal setup.
Some maps you have 3 people on site. Some maps you have 1 person on site, 2 people close, 2 people farther away, stuff like that. So it depends on the map, but that's kind of the average.
Okay. So any other stuff for Rainbow Six or like team stuff? I mean, like I said, there's a lot of different things. I don't want to necessarily like script this, so to speak. Like, is there anything else that you think we should touch on before? Like I said, I want to like, there's some other questions I want to ask at the end.
I think I'm good to get those questions.
That's it?
Yeah,
okay,
I'm
great.
good to go to questions as well.
Okay, great. So these are my other questions. I think these are a little bit more fun in some cases, but just general things. Which would you rather? What did you enjoy more? And this is a hard one, but like, which did you enjoy more, given the team environment, everything, like Overwatch or Rainbow Six, and maybe some reasons why you enjoyed one more than the other? Because you played both for a long time, really. And then VIS. Why don't we start with VIS?
So, okay. I will say my peak moment was definitely in Overwatch. We talked about it a bit earlier, but winning that tournament, Warp Meta Open League Season 1, that was a big deal. Like
Yeah.
that felt fantastic. And like I really enjoyed playing on Barbaric Black like for a long time. Like that was really fun.
Yeah.
But I think if we just consider Overwatch in the triple tank meta, I would probably say Overwatch because I really enjoyed playing at that time.
Sure.
But I think the development of metas over time in Overwatch, in metas that I wasn't particularly fond of, really pushed it aside for me. So I'd say R6.
Okay. Hektik?
So I'm in a very similar vein to this.
Okay.
So I'm biased in the fact that triple tank meta when we won Warp Meta was probably, like I said, it was a highlight of my life. And if I could just look at triple tank Overwatch, I would still be playing it.
Okay.
I loved playing Ana. I never wanted to do anything but just play Ana.
Okay.
Now, I cannot play Overwatch anymore, and I despise playing any other character really in Overwatch.
Yep.
So R6 I think is a lot more fun of a game, and I like playing R6 a lot more because I feel like there's a lot more freedom that you have to do. So in Overwatch you're really structured into your meta, and if you didn't play the meta, you're gonna lose.
Okay.
With Rainbow Six, yeah, there's kind of still metas, but you have the freedom to kind of adjust how you attack based off of what operators you use.
Got it.
And you can do creative things, like you can open up a different wall that teams don't normally see. You can not even run any hard breach, and you can just run on the site as fast as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can get really creative and really strategic, I feel like, because of all the gadgets and different things that you can do. Whereas Overwatch, I mean, I know there's a lot of detail that went into it. I don't want to like downplay that, but
Sure.
most of the time it's just you just shoot the person in front of you. Whereas Rainbow Six, you got to open up this wall, you got to drone out this site, you have to throw this frag grenade to destroy this gadget. It's a lot more in depth that you can kind of plan out from a strategic standpoint.
Got it.
So yeah, I'd have to say I think once we start getting to the point where we start playing in tournaments with R6, I think I won't even consider Overwatch anymore. But Overwatch will still be like where I began, so I'll still look fondly on that.
Sure. Okay. Next question. Which game am I best at? You've played with me in Overwatch. This is already laughing. I'm ready for it. This is already laughing. We've also played with me in Rainbow Six. The answer cannot be neither, contrary to what Chad is saying. Which am I better at?
For me, that's a super easy question. I think it's definitely Overwatch because while you're terrible at Overwatch, in Overwatch you can't really kill your teammates. In R6,
Yep. Okay.
in R6, that's not true.
I 100% agree.
Okay.
I've played in pugs with Auto, and I've died to him in every pug I've played with him. So
that's not. I don't think
that's
true.
not good. That's not good.
I don't think that's true.
He thinks it's good. He goes out of his way to kill me.
That's not true at all. Oh my gosh.
In Overwatch, the worst auto can do is feed ult to the enemy team. In Rainbow Six, the worst auto can do is kill his team. So yeah, I agree. Yep. I think auto's better at Overwatch.
Oh my goodness. So I'm just I'm ignoring certain things in chat right now. I'm a little hurt because I think with Overwatch they tried to carry me and it didn't work. I really appreciated that. I remember one time like, "Oh, let's go in a game with you." And they tried and it was bad. They tried to carry me. Their entire team was surrounded around trying to carry me and they couldn't do it. So we'll also avoid any weight jokes for those thinking of it already. But with Rainbow Six, yes, a couple games I have accidentally taken out VIS, but I don't think of it that way. I think of it as I have more kills than him because I've taken him out and maybe one other person. So I feel like I want to defend myself here and say that my skills are improving. I not only kill one teammate, I kill an enemy once in a while. So that's an improvement for me.
Yeah, I feel like killing a teammate is negative points there.
Okay.
I don't feel like that should help your total.
Okay.
But, I want to real quick. I see this in chat. Somebody said R6 seems way too tactical just to jump into. So I kind of want to talk about that real quick because that's a really good point. Yeah, R6 is a very complicated game. The very first time I played it, I hated it because I played it like Call of Duty. I just tried to run in and shoot people and I died instantly to like random holes.
You can't do that.
So it's definitely a game that you need to learn before you can really be effective at. But that being said, I don't think it's that difficult. It's Overwatch is easier to pick up and learn because it's pretty simple, like from a base gameplay standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And R6 is a little bit more complicated as you get higher up in the level.
Mm-hmm.
But I think R6 is, yes, it's a difficult game, but as you play it more, you get more adapted to it. It becomes easier when you learn the first bits of the general gameplay. It gets easier from there.
Sure. And I will say, by the way, all jokes aside, I actually like playing R6 with these guys more than Overwatch. And it has nothing to do with me taking VIS out and being the true champion of the game. It's just like it's real. I actually really enjoy it a lot. It's fun to play with them and get the group together to play. I like it a lot. I'm not good at it, but I enjoy it quite a bit. It's kind of interesting compared to Overwatch. So I enjoy it a lot. Like I like jump in once in a while with them, and I think it's super fun to, especially when you have like a fun group of people that isn't going to judge you based on how many team kills you have compared to actual kills. It's very nice to play with these guys in particular. It's a good time. So I don't think you should necessarily be too discouraged. I can understand not playing ranked if you're new, but it's fun. I enjoy it for like bits and pieces of it. It's super enjoyable, especially like I said with these guys. These guys make it like 10 times better. Just having so much fun and listening to them. So, but yeah, that was a good point to bring up and sort of talk about, because I feel like people think that, when you think of Overwatch, it feels like a more something that you can just pick up and play, and it's definitely more fun than Rainbow Six. But I think when you put a little bit of time in Rainbow Six, it's got some cool depth to it.
It does, yeah.
So I'm involved there, and I enjoy not understanding anything and just jumping in and playing too. It's so fun. So, gosh, is there anything else we should be talking about, guys? Like, I don't want to necessarily. I know some of my questions earlier were a bit memey, but
I see there's these questions about approach to team focused games and if there should be ways individuals excel or something like that.
Sure. I feel like we talked a bit about the team stuff, but I'm debating whether or not how much detail you guys want to go into specifically on your individual side when you're on the team. I think you guys had a unique perspective. Just you two. I mean, like, I'm not trying to be toxic, but like you two had a different perspective than some other people I know. Like, and it's not good or bad. It's just, it depends. Like, so I guess the question is for both of you, how much value did you put into individual growth by comparison to team growth? And it could be Rainbow Six or Overwatch related.
You saying like how much should we practice outside of being with the team?
I mean, how much do you care about, individually speaking, improving by comparison of the team improvement? I mean, the question I'm trying to clarify more, but like, are you like trying to go out of your way and playing, alone just to improve your own skills? I'm trying to give this the best framing. But like for me, I used to play Heroes of the Storm by myself just to get better, and I used to grind, and then I stopped doing that because I enjoyed playing with other people far more than just trying to do the individual grind. Some people want to grind as high as possible, individually speaking, not just with the team, and that like their own improvement matters so much more. So it's hard to phrase it the best way, but I think you maybe just talk about how you guys feel about your own skills and what you guys do to like improve, and are you more willing to improve the team as opposed to other stuff? It's a lot of stuff, but I hope my point got across. I swear I hope it did.
I'll give my view on it, starting back in the Overwatch days. We talked about it a bit before, and this will link in. But when we were looking for people, we were more concerned about how they would fit in with the team and to make sure everybody had a good time when we scrimmed, not necessarily that we were getting exponentially better every week. And so back in the Overwatch days, and still now up until this point, I didn't spend as much time grinding outside of the game because I felt it was more productive playing as a team. I felt working up synergy with the other members was just as important, if not more important, than just grinding up your own mechanical skill.
Sure.
Because it's a little different in R6 than it is in Overwatch. But being able to communicate effectively and understand what your teammates are going to do in any situation is very impactful to how well you perform in scrims. So I spent most of my time, and still think to this point, that it's better to focus on improving as a team rather than improving individually.
Okay. Hectic?
Yeah, with what Vis was saying there, I agree quite a bit. So, I put in like very minimal amount of time outside of playing with the team. So, what I would do back in Overwatch when I was playing Ana a lot is I would go into a custom game for a half hour before scrims, and I would just practice my sleep darts, right? Just like practice kind of like my mechanical skill with that of aiming and stuff.
Right.
I do the same thing with Siege. A half hour before practice, I get into a custom, or not a custom game. I get into a terrorist hunt and I shoot at the bots for a half hour just to warm up my aim and get practice.
Sure.
My philosophy with that is that I'm afraid of burnout because that's what happened with Overwatch pretty bad. Was
Sure.
I got burnt out of the game. So I think if you sit there and you grind it a lot by yourself, it's not nearly as enjoyable as playing with a team.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna start to not like it in the back of your mind, and then that's gonna start coming up more and more as you're playing. And then even when you're playing with your team, you're gonna think, I just don't want to play this game because I play it all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't want to experience burnout because I want to be able to have this game go for longevity.
Yeah.
So I don't play a lot on my own. And this makes a really good point too that yeah, you can improve your mechanical skill a lot, and like that'll make you a better player. But having synergy with the team is also very important.
Yeah.
So I have a story that I like to tell quite a bit. So way back when I was playing Overwatch and Dog was on the team and I was playing Ana and he was playing Ryan, there was a match we had against another team where everybody on our team died except for me and him,
Mm-hmm.
and the enemy was pushing the cart. And he didn't say a word to me. I didn't say a word to him. He just jumped on the cart and started swinging his hammer, and I jumped on the cart with him. And none of us said a single word the whole time, but we knew exactly how the other person was going to operate,
Mm-hmm.
and we were able to just 2v6 that team. Team probably wasn't very good, and that's why we were able to do it.
Yeah, about to
But
say.
we didn't say anything to each other. And that's the
Yeah.
key thing is
Yeah.
we had been playing together for so long that we knew what the other person was going to do and how they're going to operate, so we
Yeah.
could play around them like that.
Okay.
So that's kind of one of the things I've been stressing with our team. So, like I said before, we have a hard breacher and we have somebody that supports that person. I want those two to always be operating together because I want them to build up that connection that they know how the other person will be, they know where they will go. So they don't have to waste time kind of trying to explain their ideas. They just know what they're going to do and they can work better together.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's like, I mean, like, just thinking about it from my perspective, like, neither of you guys are pros, and that's not a disrespectful thing to say. It's the case right now, and really, when you think about it, in particular, this is something where if you're a professional player, I think the outside grind is important to a certain degree because you want to freshen up your own skills as much as possible, and it's your job. But for you guys, I think you guys want to enjoy it. You guys are grinding as a team. I think it's more important to build your chemistry. And like I always talk about chemistry, even when you were trying people out with Overwatch. The one thing that I cared about most was you guys getting good chemistry with the people you brought in. And so I think building chemistry, playing with your teammates, even outside the game, having some fun with them in whatever ability you can, even, it's so important. So I think you
That
guys...
was sorry, I think that was one of the biggest things that we tried to do back in Overwatch was we tried to have a team game night and we called it team bonding,
Mm-hmm.
where we had everybody. It was a mandatory practice, but we were playing a different game or we were doing something else. And it was our idea with that was that we would bond with each other and we kind of become closer as friends, and then
Mhm.
we'd be able to communicate better in the game
Yeah.
because we're hanging out with each other and stuff.
Mhm.
So we tried to implement that quite a bit, and we don't quite do that as much with Rainbow Six, but I don't really think we need to because I think we're all pretty good friends.
Yeah.
When it comes to Rainbow Six, there. So
Yeah, I think you guys do a good job of communicating anyway. I mean, you guys are very special. You guys have been playing together for a while, and at least from what my perspective, seeing you guys, it's a wonderful experience to have like been a part of your guys' teams. You guys have a really like fun environment, and you guys communicate well. You guys call me on my BS, and you're very good about all this kind of stuff, and that's really important, especially to me. So I think you guys are great, especially for like talking about this stuff. You guys bring a unique perspective to this, and you know I'm so happy to have you guys come on here for this kind of stuff. And like, you know, I hate to do this, but I'm going to start rounding this out because we're almost at 2 hours. I really had to, because like we could keep going on this, and there's like something to be said. But I think if there's anything else you guys want to close on, now's the time. And once you guys do, and I close, you know, I'll close out, and then we'll call it there.
So, a couple things. One serious and
Okay.
one more of a joke.
Okay, good.
So something, it's like a quick warning for anybody who ever wants to participate in a team competitively. Just be warned that playing in the team competitively can ruin the ranked experience for you. Trying to solo queue. That's not true for everybody, but most of the time, experiencing what it's like to have 6 people in sync, everybody responding to calls and working together like you should be in a team environment like that, it can be really tough to go back to that. Like in Overwatch especially, it can be very frustrating to try to solo queue in that game after scrimming for hundreds of hours. So
Yeah.
something to keep an eye out for. Also, for you R6 fellas out there, if you ever play R6, make sure to play Clash, best operator in the game.
Oh boy.
That's all I wanted to say.
Gosh.
Oh boy.
Anything to close on, Hektik?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Clash is a bad operator. Don't play her. But yeah, one of the things that really is great about team environments and the correct team, and this can kind of go to both Overwatch and Rainbow Six, is that you don't have to be the best player aim-wise. You can bring so much more to the team in other ways. So Overwatch, I mean, when we were first starting, Dog was no aim, no brain. Right? he couldn't.
Yeah.
He had no aim. But he was the best main tank player at our level because he just brought his knowledge of the game and he brought his skill level playing characters that don't require aim. The same can kind of go to Rainbow Six in a sense that there's enough operators that do key different things in the game, and then there's also watching drones, watching cameras, stuff like that, giving calls for where the enemy team is, that you can still support your team in a very good way while not actually shooting at anybody. So some of the best support players in the pro league for Rainbow Six have like the worst KDs, but they're the best support players because they're always calling out and they know where to be and where to watch. So yeah, team environments really allow you to excel, and you just got to figure out like how can you like provide for your team. I'll tell our team sometimes, if you're having an off night, try to find a different way to support. If you're having a hot night where you're fragging out and nobody can stop you, pick up the role of going in and taking those gunfights. If you're not having that, back off, let somebody else take the gunfights, and you support them.
Yeah.
And from that, I mean, everybody's going to have off nights, but you can still support the team. And yeah, Clash is bad.
Yeah. So, one thing I'll close on: why doesn't Auto do these supporting roles instead of shooting VIS?
He's not good enough at the game to understand that they exist. He just kind of walks around.
Otto is big brain. He knows VIS is a great caller, so he's putting VIS on cameras as soon as possible.
That's a fact. Thank you. So that's exactly what I was going to say.
Well, you gave him an out, Hektik. He's going to say that every time.
VIS's optimal role is being on cameras, and I'm putting him there faster. That is a great point. That's a great point. I would leave with that. You know, sometimes you gotta really just do those things like that in support of the team. So don't be afraid to, when you're in your R6 game and VIS is there, just pop him right in the head, put him on cams, and you're good to go. So that's all I'll say on that. But you know, these, like I said, you guys are great. Thank you for coming on. This is fun. I'm glad we got to talk with you guys specifically about Overwatch and Rainbow Six. With Overwatch, you know, there's so much to talk about, frankly speaking, from all different perspectives, and being a part of that. You know, unfortunately, we can't talk about it all here because there's a lot of things I would love to say, but I don't say because I'm a good person, I think. Maybe. Um, so I think it's just from the manager side also, I want to close with this. You know, trust your team. I've had some really bad takes. There was one take I had with these guys. I talked to them earlier about it. You know, when you have a bad take as a manager, own up to your bad take. Sometimes I don't own up to my bad takes fast enough, and I just try and legitimize them, and I sound like an idiot. So be willing to own up to your bad takes, and learn from your team, because your team is, in a lot of cases, at least with these guys in particular, like your team members are really smart people, and you should trust their judgment. So be willing to trust other people's judgment when they've got some good ideas, and when you're being an idiot. Thank you everybody for listening to this podcast in particular. Hopefully, you know, next week Spoon will be back. I think we're looking at another KH episode, but we'll see about that one. Cross our fingers here, folks. Hektik and VIS, thanks guys for coming on. I always ask this of people, and sometimes they have an answer for this or no. Is there anything you want to plug besides Clash?
Hi, Mom.
Okay, hi Mom.
If
There
you're
you go.
still watching.
You're still watching? Hello? And then VIS is plugging Dr. Pepper. Okay.
Drink for the people.
Drink for the people. Okie dokie. Well, if you're here and you're new, please support these podcasts. They're, you know, we talk about various different gaming topics, not just Rainbow Six and Overwatch. This was kind of like a unique episode because Spoon, my co-host, wasn't here. So I got to bring these two on, and we got to have some fun about the good old days and things like that. But, you know, if you want to hear about other topics, we talk about various different other topics involving gaming. We've talked about RPGs, specific game series like Fire Emblem, things like that. Feel free to stop by. We're every Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And feel free to follow our Twitter, the Myriathon Twitter. Please do, because our next Myriathon's coming up June 8th, I think is what we're targeting for that. And that's going to be like a week-long thing. So mark your calendars for that. And follow our YouTube. So like and subscribe to the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you could be so kind as to follow my Twitter as well, if you want Myriacast updates in particular, that would be great for those. The last thing I'll plug, because I like to sell out here as well, I've been streaming more often during the weeks, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, sometimes Friday, I'm not sure, depends on my D&D schedule, and Saturdays potentially, depending on how things work out. Mostly Assassin's Creed Odyssey right now. However, I've been coerced into playing AI the Somnium Files because Tricourage did a favor for me, we'll say. For he watched a stream that I asked him to watch. So I think that's that's it. So thank you guys for watching. Be sure to, you know, thank VIS and Hektik for coming on and talking about all this stuff. It's a lot of good information you just got if you're interested at all in like competitive. And hopefully I will see you guys next Monday. And if you want to talk to these guys more about this stuff, they're in my Discord server. And so you could just message me if you want to talk to them in my Discord server. And anything else involving Rainbow Six or Overwatch. So thanks everybody. And I will see you all next week. And that'll be it. So bye to all of you in the chat.
So Lit Mobile just sent me this solar wireless battery pack.